Call this meeting to order. At this time, if you're able, please rise for our national anthem, followed by our land acknowledgement.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of its command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Wendourok, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Port Colborne stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
This time, if I could do the adoption of the agenda, we have one addition to our agenda this evening under item 12.4. It's correspondence from the region of Niagara regarding the vacant council seat, and also under item 18.4 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 89-2000 as amended, being a bylaw regulating traffic and parking on city roads. Parking prohibition tow-away locations will be removed from the agenda at staff's request and will come forward at a later date. If I could have Councillors Bodner and Danch move that the agenda dated May 27, 2025 be confirmed as amended. Questions? All in favor? Carried. We have one disclosure declared. It's Councillor Beauregard has declared an indirect pecuniary interest on items 12.3B and 18.3 as his employer is the agent for the buyer. Any other disclosures? Okay. Right to item 9, the mayor's report. I was one of 325 mayors from Canada and the United States who attended the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative annual conference in Milwaukee, Wisconsin last week. The theme of the conference, attended by more than 500 delegates from all levels of government and private industry, was the future of fresh water. We attended morning, afternoon, and evening sessions for 3 days, united by a declaration to preserve the U.S.-Canada relationship to protect our prosperous regional economy and precious freshwater resources. Speakers included the Consul General of Canada in Chicago, mayors and provincial ministers from cities and towns along the St. Lawrence and around the Great Lakes, First Nation chiefs and leaders, Environmental Protection Agency administrators, corporate executives, and conservation directors. The initiative is committed to enhancing stewardship through private-public partnerships, including the future of freshwater shipping. The United States and Canada have worked together for decades to foster mutually beneficial cross-border trade and advance effective management of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River. This binational cooperation, supported by the efforts of municipalities, First Nations, and tribes and states and provinces, has helped create the third largest economy in the world, which generates 6 trillion United States dollars, or 8 trillion Canadian dollars, in annual economic output and 50% of U.S.-Canada annual bilateral trade. Strong diplomatic ties have also helped improve the health of our lakes and rivers, which comprise of about 84% of North America's surface freshwater. The declaration we signed last week at our conference demonstrates that Cities Initiative members remain united in supporting good relations between the United States and Canada. It was a Great Lakes St. Lawrence strong response to the current tensions, which have been exacerbated by a trade war that is impacting communities, jobs, and consumers on both sides of the border. In addition to adopting the declaration, Cities Initiative members in Milwaukee approved a series of resolutions on various economic and environmental issues affecting our region, including the need to end the U.S.-Canada trade war, continue to support the treaty rights of First Nations and tribes, and uphold important binational agreements and interstate compacts to preserve our water quality and supply, including the Boundary Waters Treaty, the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement, and the Great Lakes St. Lawrence River Basin Water Resource Compact. Session topics included lake levels, water management and climate resilience, flooding and erosion, legacy pollution, brownfields, industry, fish populations, invading species. The things that affect us here at the southern terminus of the Welland Canal are things with similar impact on hundreds of other communities. And to quote my good friend Mayor Cavalier Johnson of Milwaukee, "We are two countries, but one region, united by highly integrated supply chains and an abundant supply of fresh water that is the envy of the world. As local government leaders, we will continue to do everything in our power to renew the U.S.-Canada relationship that has been integral to the economic prosperity and environmental progress of our region." It is a tremendous learning experience. On behalf of Council, I have some wonderful news to share about our animal shelter on Elm Street. The City of Port Colborne, the Niagara SPCA, and the Humane Society invite all animal lovers to join us for the grand reopening of the Port Colborne Animal Shelter at 1080 Elm Street North, Saturday, May 31st, between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Sherry Hansen, our Manager of Bylaw Services, has worked with partners over the past many months to improve the shelter inside and out. And it's time to celebrate with a special event. Upgrades to the meet and greet playground include a grand gazebo, picnic tables, and more trees, making it a much bigger and better area for volunteers who care for our four-legged friends, and for prospective families to adopt a forever friend. Every month, 18 to 20 animals cared for at the shelter over the course of a year. However, there has been many as 500 animals through the shelter. The average stay varies from a few days to a few months. Pet owners contact the shelter if they've lost their dog or cat, and those animals go home. Others wait to be adopted, and many thanks to Pet Value, where photos of cats needing homes are featured in the store. It's been a big help and a great partnership. A dedicated group of animal care attendants provide daily care, medications, and enrichment to the animals in the shelter. The Niagara SPCA and Humane Society has been providing care to the animals at the Port Colborne Shelter for 20 years, since July of 2005, when they became the animal service providers for the City of Port Colborne. The shelter is open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Saturday. If you're able to help, the shelter is always in need of towels, blankets, leashes, collars, toys, poop bags, and dog treats. We hope to see you on Saturday, May the 31st from 11 to 1 for the grand reopening. Come out to celebrate the new features and meet the animals up for adoption. Congratulations to the Museum Auxiliary and the 60 volunteers who run Arabella's Tea Room for the great success of their annual pie social this past Sunday afternoon. 3 shifts of volunteers served 270 slices of pie to more than 250 guests between noon and 4. It was non-stop all afternoon. My wife Debbie and I waited in line with guests from Port Colborne and from across the region. It's so gratifying to be part of this unique experience and to know how much others enjoy it too. Well done, ladies. The tea room opens for the season on June the 1st, and it's open 2 to 4 daily, serving freshly baked biscuits, homemade jam, and tea. In addition to the pie social on Sunday, people took in the history fair of heritage displays and demonstrations, games and activities, and the 50th anniversary exhibits within the museum. I ask every driver watching, listening, or reading this to please slow down. The Niagara Regional Police Service has a traffic enforcement unit with a specific mandate to conduct increased enforcement throughout the Niagara region. People have asked for it. People are angry, they're frustrated, and deadly serious about wanting speeding stopped. My office and every mayor's office within Ontario is called on the speeding issue. Quite frankly, the police are very serious. They're out there in marked and unmarked cars with a mandate to conduct enforcement and reduce the number of fatalities and collisions within Niagara. If you see someone speeding in your neighborhood, or if you're aware of any traffic safety issue, we ask that you call the Niagara Police Traffic Hotline, 289-248-1060, That's the Niagara Regional Police Services Traffic Hotline, 289-248-1060. There's also an email address to which you can record complaints. You can email directly to trafficcomplaints@niagarapolice.ca. That's trafficcomplaints@niagarapolice.ca. With the public and police working together, the Niagara region becomes a safer place for everyone. And this concludes my remarks for this evening. If you have any questions with regards to the mayor's report or any questions with regards to the region, I can take those now. Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You gave the phone number twice and the email once, and
No, twice.
would it be? I missed it.
You wanna hear that again?
All 4 times, anyways.
Okay, you want to hear
Is
that
it
again?
possible we could put out a press release on our website?
We'll get our comms to, definitely put that out, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy with that.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Any other questions? Okay. So next, under motions arising from committees, we have the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting of May the 14th, 2025, moved by Councillor Bagu, second by Councillor Beauregard. The council endorsed the 50/30 Niagara correspondence. Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the 50/30 Niagara has a proposition for our council, every council and councillor in Niagara region. And at this time, Mr. Mayor, could it be possible to refer this back to our environmental manager and staff and have staff do a presentation to council in the near future? We can make a educated decision then, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, that's fine. Councillor Beauregard, you all right with seconding that? Okay, so this is on a referral. There is no debate. So as far as dates coming back, July, August, whenever they can put that together and come back to us. Okay, Mr. Acting CAO, you've got that for the dates? Madam Clerk. Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Councillor. I appreciate that. So items 12.3B has been lifted due to Councillor Beauregard's conflict. So it'll be considered under item 13.3. And Councillor Ackling and Bodner have lifted item 12.3C, which will now be considered as item 13.4. And Councillor Bruno has lifted items 12.3E and 12.3F, and they will be considered as items 13.5 and 13.6. Are there any other items that need lifting? Seeing none, if I could have Councillors Elliott and Bruno move that Council hereby approves the listed consent items on the May 27th, 2025 Council agenda, that the consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. All in favor? That's carried. Yours was passed. You're set. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so item 13.1. Just get up to speed here, Council. Okay. So we have a presentation for the 2025 Asset Management Plan. So I will turn it over to Alex Rotundo, Supervisor of Asset Management, to give us a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to turn it over to Jen Gross from GI Consultants, who will give the presentation.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jen Gross from GEI Consultants. I'm the asset management lead for GEI Canada. So I'm here today to present your 2025 asset management plan. So I will briefly go over the OREG, just why did we need to do this exercise, where have we come since last year. I'll go over the asset management plan process just as a refresher of what we did last year and what the difference is of what we did for this year and what the scope of the 2025 asset management plan is. And then talk to you about the state of the infrastructure and what the results of the asset management plan are and any next steps. This is my clicker, I'm assuming. So OREG 588/17 came into effect in 2018, and the first step of that was creating a strategic asset management policy. So that was the commitment to do asset management within the organization. Then there was a regulation requiring for your core assets, which are your roads, storm, water, sanitary, and bridges and structures, to present your current level of service. So what are you currently providing, an overview of your assets, and then for 2024, we had to include all remaining assets, so your facilities, trails, parks, IT infrastructure. So we did that plan last year, and then this year, the focus of this plan has been an update to the 2024 plan to now include targets for that level of service. So I'll go a little bit into that more shortly. So the asset management plan process is determining what the state of the infrastructure is. So it's looking at what the current condition of your assets are, what is the current replacement value for all of your assets if you were to replace them today, what the average age is, and then we speak to levels of service. So what are the services we provide? How do we rate those services? And then the 2024 AMP, we just had to look at how are you currently doing? What are you currently providing? And then this plan is slightly different because we had to set targets to those levels of service. From there, we go into the life cycle management strategy, which is all of the things that you do to your assets throughout their whole life cycle. So from the time you acquire them, you engineer them, you build them, then to operations and maintenance, planning for them, anything in between, and then their eventual replacement. So we've taken that information, we've forecast what your needs are for the full life cycle of your assets, and then we talk about the financial strategy, which is the fun part about how do we afford all of this and what is it going to cost us. From there, we do an improvement and monitoring plan because asset management's not done in a day. You are continually getting updated information, better information to improve those forecasts and how you plan for your assets. So the scope from the 2024 asset management plan, which has been carried forward to the 2025 plan, is your wastewater, water, stormwater, transportation. Transportation includes your bridges and structures, so those are your core assets, and that's the regulation speaking to what is considered a core asset, but we know better that all assets in the municipality provide important services to the community. The rest of the services include facilities, fleet and equipment, information technology, natural assets, your library, and then your park assets. So in total, your assets are worth $1.87 billion. Transportation makes up the biggest portion of that, and then your stormwater, water, wastewater, and so forth. The 2024 plan, we initially collected all the information on your assets, we reported on them, but we did make some improvements just from last year to incorporate new information on condition for your storm network that was gathered over the past year and a half. We've also increased the replacement values to look at inflation from last year to this year. We've got new information for your storm and your sanitary system. So as you are collecting condition information, we've taken that, we've updated that within this plan. So some of the assets are still just, we've taken it from last year, we made everything 1 year older, but where the information was available, we did update that. And then we've also made the addition of, so then we've also updated your anticipated budget for the 20-year forecast. So we've worked with the city to make sure that the budget is aligned with what your needs are and what that plan is for the next 20 years. So from your state of the infrastructure last year to this year, there have been a lot of improvements made. So there was investments in acquiring storm information for your storm pipes. So we didn't really know what condition they were in. It did provide a dramatic increase or improvement to those assets. We've also added your sanitary services because that's an ongoing need to address I&I. So there it does show the investments that you're making in your data in collecting condition information is making a difference and it's making an impact. We've also updated your water system or your sanitary system for all the work that's been done relining your pipes to improve the condition. So it has made a big improvement even just from what we knew last year. So the big thing about asset management and that continual improvement is you're always improving the information you have so you can make better decisions. And it shows that the city and the work that you've done and the money you've invested getting that information has been a benefit to you. So just a closer look at the condition of your system. So there are still some unknowns for IT infrastructure and some of the park assets. So the city's still working on acquiring some of that information. So as that information is available, this information can get updated and will improve those forecasts and what your needs are. So for levels of service, so current performance, so what your current performance is it's looking at what you're currently providing, and then for this asset management plan, we had to include proposed or targets to those levels of service. So this is just an example of some of the metrics that have been developed for your levels of service. Some of that is regulated metrics. We have to report on specific things as per the regulation. Some of it is developed with the city. Ultimately, the levels of service, we're trying to find the right balance between cost, risk, and that level of service. While everybody wants the best of the services, there's not a willingness to pay. We also have to try to balance risk so that we're minimizing the risk to the city. So the life cycle management strategy, so where we've documented all the activities you do to your assets throughout their whole life cycle, and then we run forecasts to determine what the needs are based on different scenarios. So the anticipated budget scenario is looking at if we fund our assets the way we say we will, what is the impact to the condition of our assets? So throughout the asset management plan, for each asset category, you will see one of these graphs for each of these scenarios so that you can see what is happening in the long term to your assets. The maintain current level of service scenario is assuming we want to keep our assets in approximately the same condition they are now. Sometimes that's lower, and the cost of that scenario is lower because if your assets are right now in poor condition, it's cheap to maintain that. But we want to improve our assets' condition typically and the services that we provide. So from there, we've determined what your proposed level of service or target is. So that's been done through consultation with various stakeholders within the city and looking at the whole corporation, what the different needs are. It's looked at cost, it's looked at all these different factors, regulations, to determine what that ideal target should be. So the forecast assumptions, again, this is based on the best information we have available right now. This is continually being updated. So as we even replace assets, that's new information that we need to document for your asset management plan because a new asset's in good condition. And then as you dispose of assets and get rid of very poor assets, we want to make sure that that's reflected in your asset management plan. So as new condition information is available, as you complete master plans, any further reviews of your life cycle strategies, all that is information that needs to get assessed on a regular basis. For this plan, all the needs and the future needs are stated in 2025 dollars, so those needs aren't including inflation. The forecasts that I was speaking to, it is determining what your needs are for renewal, rehab, and replacements. The other life cycle activities are coming from your operating budgets and informed that way. So the anticipated budget has been developed to meet your proposed level of service. So we've taken that approach and how are we going to take the information of what our needs are and budget for this. So the budget has been updated to reflect what those needs are. The sources were your 2024 and your 2025 budget, your water financial plan, and your wastewater financial plan. So you will notice that there are increases in what those budget levels are, even from what you spent this year. and there's planned catch-ups throughout the plan up to between 2025 to 2034 for this plan. So you will see there's a few lines here. We more want you to focus on what the lines are. The bars are based on what the needs are. So you'll see in 2025, there's a big portion of that bar, which is your proposed level of service for your renewal and replacement. So that's basically including your backlog. So things that should have been done already that have not been. The red dotted line and the solid black line underneath that line is your average annual budget and your average annual cost for your proposed level of service. So again, the budget's been developed so that those are aligned. Your current level of service is lower than your proposed level of service and your current budget because, again, if your assets are in poor condition, it's cheaper to maintain those and we don't need to replace things. We're okay with things being in very poor condition. But we know that's not the case. We know we want to address that. We want to take care of our assets and that provide services to the community. So if you look at long term, so the top of the bar is what your current condition is of your assets. So the red portion of that bar is your assets in very poor condition. By 2045, if we follow this plan, you will see the impact to the overall condition of your assets. So there is a slight amount left in very poor condition, but the plan ultimately is trying to address all of the assets in very poor condition as per your strategic priorities. So there were a few things left. Water, there's still a lot of unknowns. We're still working on coming up with an appropriate plan. We're still trying to determine what the appropriate strategies are. And then also the grain terminal was not assumed to be addressed within this plan. So how do we close the gap? It is not just the financial strategies that we need to close the gap. There are a lot of things for non-financial strategies that you can do and are doing to address the gap. So levels of service targets, we could lower those targets if we didn't want to address all the assets that are in very poor condition and we want to bring that down. There's things like that you can do. Even just getting new information. So the needs that we thought you needed for your storm assets last year have actually come down based on their current condition because we've gone out and we've gotten that information. Storm's a little bit tricky though because a lot of your system wasn't designed to an engineering standard. So even if the pipe in the ground is okay condition, it doesn't necessarily mean it's providing the service that we want it to. So it's something, again, that the city is continually working on and coming up with an appropriate plan. For opportunities for continual improvement, I won't go through the whole list of them, but ultimately it is doing asset management best practices. It's making sure you have up-to-date information, that you have the processes in place to update this information, make sure you're mapping out your business processes, determining what a failure is for a water main, for instance, that even if a water main's at the end of its life, are we worried about it yet if there's been no water main breaks? That it's still providing a service, and how do we better forecast these needs? So it's definitely the key messaging here is we want to make sure that you know that this information is continually being updated. We're still trying to find new ways and different strategies to bring down what those needs are so that they are more affordable for the community. So after all this, you do have a compliant plan for 2024 and now for 2025, and it includes all these different sections, and all the different assets have their own chapter, which is like a mini asset management plan, so you can better understand each of the assets' needs. So upon council endorsement of this plan, it will be posted to the website, which is a requirement of the regulation. After this plan goes, starting next year in 2026, there is a requirement to do an annual update on your progress implementing your asset management plan. Where are you struggling? Are you achieving what your targets are? Those need to be reviewed, so you will have that annual opportunity. This plan itself doesn't need to be updated for another 5 years, though, So, but we don't want you to forget about it again for another 5 years. We want that annual update to help you make the best decisions you can, and then implementing your continuous improvement.
Perfect, thank you. Questions, councilors? Councilor Beauregard.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter. I'm just noticing on the charts when we go to the levels of service, and then it shows current performance, it goes in the columns, current performance, proposed performance. Is there a way that we can, in the future, maybe show past performance, like the previous year? Because it's hard to kind of know what, like if we're really improving based on those indicators. So for example, Port Colborne has a lot of issues with wastewater and water. So amount of wastewater assets in very poor condition and wastewater to water build ratio. We show current of 4.08% on the first one and 2.3 to 1 ratio in the other. And it'd be really nice to be able to see how those have changed over the years. So I'm wondering, I don't really expect you to have the numbers off the top of your head, but maybe if staff are able to provide us with some kind of information of how we've improved from the previous year, that'd be great.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, and then the intent or my recommendation for that annual update on your progress implementing the AMP is fill out those levels of service on an annual basis, and that will give you the opportunity to see how you're improving over time, and you can keep track of 2024, 2025, 2026. We could definitely pull the information together. In the 2024 plan, you can have a look. Some of them are still just, we used the information from 2024 for your current performance, but the intent is during the annual update that you will have that information provided every year.
Okay, Councilor. Thank you. Councilor Bruno.
Thank you. It wasn't a question I had, but after Councilor Beauregard mentioned that, one popped to mind. When you talk about the plan being updated every 5 years, I guess my view would be that if you have a status of your deficit, you have the ranking of conditions, and you spend X amount of dollars that year, you're reducing potentially your infrastructure deficit. So why wouldn't the deficit get reduced in real time as projects are completed? The deficit on, let's use water, for example, is reduced. So if you're now, because I think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, this whole thing, because for years, all you would have is, well, what are we short on IT? And you just get a number thrown at you, and this is transparent, and you can see progress. So what's the difference between, or first of all, can we update the plan annually with our spend? And so then what's the difference in a 5-year review? Because it seems to me that if we're working in real time, things are aging, things are being replaced, things are being divested. Isn't the plan just a living document?
Through you, Mayor. I should have you come do all my presentations because I love that. It's definitely something we recommend, that this is meant to be a living document, and it's your choice if you want to update the full plan every year if you wanted to, or leverage that asset or that annual update. We would recommend update the state of the infrastructure on an annual basis, update the levels of service metrics, maybe not have to do a full-blown update to this plan, but it should be a living document. And as you update assets, that information is being updated in your GIS and where you have that information. So part of those recommendations for continual improvement is some of your assets are maintained in a register more often. Some of them, it's an annual exercise, some of them. So there's varying levels of maturity in your data. So making sure that information is updated and that you are set up to basically have a living document. And whenever you want this information, it's easy to access and pull that information together. And that you do get that update on an annual basis on your state of the infrastructure. Look at the improvements that you've made year over year. And if you look at water, for instance, or sanitary, for instance, from last year, because we've now incorporated all of those relining programs that you've been doing, there was a dramatic improvement on your condition. So it's a great exercise to be doing on an annual basis. We don't want people to, have this plan sit on a shelf for 5 years and wait till then to update it.
Thank you. No, we can't afford your rate, Councillor.
So just on that, and maybe this is a question for Alex and.
So is there a question to the presenter, only because this is question time, not comment time? So if you have a question, or you can wait till it's on the table.
Oh, wait till it's on the table.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the presenter. You mentioned my favorite slide, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this. The state of the infrastructure, where it has the two graphs the two circles from 2024 and 2025. And I'm still trying to figure it out. When you look at 2024 against 25, the very poor dollar figures are up, which is bad. The poor dollar figures are up, again bad. The fare was reduced by $20 million, down to 373. When we get to the good side, the good condition went up $70 million, but the very good doubled. And I can't for the life of me figure out, how did we double in the very good section when we had losses in the very poor and the poor? So just the dollar figures, like we went up to $350 million in the good. How do we gain $350 million to the good?
Through you, Mayor. A lot of that's to do with the sanitary system. So you've been doing 3 years worth of relining. So that information's been incorporated, which we didn't have available last year. So relining a pipe is basically making it in very good condition. So that's been reflected. Plus, through the storm system, last year, all the information on your storm system the condition was based on age and its estimated service life and where that's falling in its estimated service life. You've invested in information to get condition data on your system. We did a Zoom camera inspection. We inspected basically every pipe. So there was a dramatic increase rather than just relying on age and an estimated service life. We did add some more assets to your profile for sanitary, and we did update your replacement values. So that's also an impact on what that condition is. The information we had and the available last year for the replacement values, we didn't have current contracts. Now we do. So some of those price increases for storm specifically and water increased quite dramatically from last year, because now there's unique things that happen in Port Colborne, bedrock, and all of that has made it more expensive to replace these assets. So that's been reflected in this plan, and that's why those numbers are the way they are.
Okay. Councilor? Thank you for the explanation, because I couldn't get the numbers to jive, and I kept coming back to it, and I went, how do we jump up so high in the good? And it's like, was it a purchase, right? Did we build something that came online and it's a brand new building, or we bought vehicles and they're new, something was upgraded? I couldn't figure out, but yeah, if we didn't account for it last year, but we did this year, that makes all the difference. Okay, thank you. That's a great help to me.
Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This will be maybe a comment in the form of a question to get around your beat down of Councillor Bruno there.
Well, we are in question time. I mean, when we put it on
No.
the floor, you can make all the comments you want.
It's a question to the presenter. So we see all our assets listed here, and I think you said that that was mandated by the province. So just for the people in our ward, Ward 4, there is no drainage in any of this, right? Municipal drains.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, so this does account for your current assets. So that is something that should be noted, that for the storm system where there is no system right now, that has not been reflected. But when we talk about master plans and pulling that information, so as that information for needs are identified, that information can be updated in this plan of future spending requirements for growth or a service improvement.
Okay, good. Thanks. Yep.
Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jen, for the presentation. I wait for this every year, I think. Not really, but it's a long report. I'm not gonna lie to you. Anyways, does this plan go anywhere? Does it go to the provincial government? Is it something we put on our shelf? Does anybody actually look at this outside of people in Park Colborne?
Through you, Mayor, you are required to put it up on your website. The ministry sometimes asks for it to make sure that it is up on your website. And then as you apply for funding applications, they will ask if it's been complete, ask for the link to it, make sure that the items that you're applying for funding have been identified in your asset management plan. How close they look at it, I would love to say they really look at this information and they react to it. I can't say that they do, I can't make any promises, but it is a requirement and they will ask you for it to make sure that you, when you're applying to those funding applications, that it's been done.
Thank you. To you, Mr. Mayor. That was my second question. Funding applications and this report would give us, our municipality, a great kick up because it shows we are working on stuff. We are improving our asset management plan, and I think we're doing a better job than a lot of municipalities in Niagara. I watch your council meetings on television. A lot of it's, we'll do it next year, and it's good to see this city is progressing forward. And that's a comment, Mr. Mayor, so sorry. I'm done.
Okay, I was going to ask if there's got questions somewhere hidden in there. Councillor Bruno, do you have a question or do you want to wait till it's on the floor? You're all set? Okay, any further questions to the speaker? Great, thank you very much. So if I could have Councillors Danch and Aquilina move that the Public Works Department Report 2025-113 be received, that the Asset Management Plan and Appendix B of Public Works Report 2025-113 be approved. Questions or comments? Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Alex, if you could. So you heard the comment about us inputting those numbers in real time so that they're reflected annually. We see the progress. Is that something you were going to be doing? Is that something you need this council to recommend to have done? And what would be involved if next week Joe completes some more lining and we have the number? We have the amount of meters that they lined. We know we're now not replacing that pipe. We know the value of that pipe. So how difficult would that be? And was that already in your scope of work?
Through the mayor, thank you for the question. I would say that it would be within our scope to keep this updated as time goes on. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that it's a living, breathing document that, you know, it's not this particular report might be a snapshot of a moment in time, but the activity of asset management is something that is continually going on, you know, as time progresses. So I would say, to answer your question, yes, it's something that we intend to keep current as time progresses, even though this is the final legislatively required update to the AMP. I think it's something we're going to keep going on as time progresses.
One other question, I'm not sure it's for Alex, it may be the CAO. So when I looked at all the various departments, I noticed a deficiency in IT. And so from the council's perspective, you know, do you need direction how does that work where, like, from my point of view, when you're small, you got to be nimble, and IT is important because it can provide efficiencies that create savings. Similarly, it's not an area where you want to be attacked on because your IT has some areas that are poor and it's like $1.5 million. So the question becomes to either one of you, what kind of input can we as a council have to say, I think there should be more money spent on IT. I see all those infrastructure deficits, and I think that needs more money. Is that at budget? Is it a suggestion now? So you look at it, is it something IT comes back and say, well, actually, you know what? Most of that deficit that's poor is replacing phones. It's not cyber prevention or the cloud or any of those things. So how does one delve into that?
You guys want to arm wrestle over who answers?
I'll make a brief comment. I see Mr. Bowles is probably wanted to speak, but I'll make a brief comment just saying that IT, by my understanding, based on the short lifespan of the assets, will naturally show as a little poorer than the infrastructure assets just by nature of having a lifespan of 3 to 4 years as opposed to 50 to 100. But I'll let Mr. Bowles chime in on the budgetary question that you had.
Perfect. I see our CIO is online, although Mr. Long is the acting CIO tonight because he is in the chamber, but we know that both Brian and Steve are at CAMA conference. So Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So through you to council, with IT, we have to remember that we're going through that transition, and council has approved some significant projects around core software that does tax, water billing, that does the accounting and HR system, that does the GIS system. So we're actually, it's an interesting spot right now where council and Councilor Bruno, I know you've helped lead the charge on council with this to start those investments. And as those investments roll through the system, you'll actually see some of this legacy stuff disappear. And you'll see this become a much better, greener pasture when you look at these charts going forward. So I appreciate council's commitment to information technology and the advancement and the support it can do for the city, for the citizens, for staff to do the day-to-day work. And I can assure you that those investments, as Alex has noted, as he updates this on a go-forward basis, you're going to start to see those show up in a more green fashion than you are in this undefined as we transition.
Counselor.
Thank you for that comment. I guess, though, at some point, somebody's making a call as to how to redistribute that. So if I see IT with a bunch of stuff that is very poor, I guess it's for me or a counselor to ask a more robust question to IT, like, can you live with very poor based on the particular asset? Is that a way, or is the way to say we want IT to get out of very poor on 20% of its assets, and we want that as a priority?
Mr. Bowles?
Yeah, through the mayor to the council, I appreciate the directness of the question. So I think as council knows, we kind of take direction either formally or informally on a day-to-day basis. And I think the question here helps us inform that I think councils has an interest in, in this particular area, reducing that red component, that very poor, a very poor area in IT is not something that we want to see. So if council wants to be more direct and give us specific direction, if not, I think myself and Mr. Long there that's acting this week can make some notes, and we can work with the clerk to make sure we have that disseminated with IT and keep moving forward with that. So that way you can actually see some real progress in the coming budgets and in the coming years on that gray and red area.
I'm fine with that, and I'm sure we'll get more information from the IT department to that extent. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bowles.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions, comments? Just one, I would hope that through this asset management plan, as staff moves forward and knowing the thoughts of this council, and quite frankly, what a lot was said this evening, is the fact that when they come forward at budget time, they tell us, look, although our needs are X, but we can only afford Y this year, we do have a path forward to get X fulfilled. So it gives us a good path. And I think if you look at what was presented tonight under the asset management plan, specifically on your question, Councillor Elliott, on water, wastewater, and how that has improved over the last number of years and how much we've spent in it because it needed to be spent. I mean, when you got big holes in your pipes, that what you think, and you line them, or you fix the laterals and the water lines, it stops the 24/7 waste of water flowing out of somebody's lateral. So, but I would hope that each department comes forward based on what the asset management plan tells them and say, this is our plan forward, and this is how much we need to spend this year. Then it's up to us to make those tough decisions as far as where the money goes and how it's spent and how it rolls out. So I appreciate that. So thank you guys for that. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor? That's carried. Next is the item 13.2, Niagara Regional Councillor vacancy 2025-122. If I could have Councillors Beauregard and Bodner move the Legislative Services Department Report 2025-122 be received, and that pursuant to the Council vacancy policy, Council follow the method of appointment to make a recommendation to fill the vacancy of the Niagara Regional Councillor. I'm just going to go to the clerk on this because we really have two choices. So if the clerk could just outline those, because I think we need to leave this meeting tonight giving the clerk's department direction on where you guys want to go or where we want to go, because we need, it's 60 days. We've got to get back to the region in 60 days with a name. But I think with what the clerk's department has put together, we can do that prior to, I believe it's their last meeting in July, that we could actually, with what your timeline is, it can be appointed in the end of July.
So we have 60 days from the day that they declare the vacancy, which occurred on May 22nd. Yeah. That brings us to July 21st. They don't have a July meeting before that time, so they would have to call a special meeting. And understanding that we want to get this position filled as soon as possible, we're hoping to open should council approve the recommendation as put forward tonight, we will open the period for submitting a resume tomorrow, lasting until June 13th, I believe, and hoping to expedite this process so that we can have somebody fill that position as soon as possible.
Yeah, just to point out, the clerk's department has looked at other communities, Pelham being the most recent, St. Catharines that have recently done reappointments to regional council. Our timeline is actually a little longer than both of those, so it works out well. They presented it to me today when we did our pre-council meeting with this, just to keep me up to date with regards to how we're moving. So really tonight, we need to say, are we going to have a by-election or are we going to appoint somebody? I will tell you, a by-election is going to be about $100,000. By the time you go through all that, the person you elect, they won't be elected till almost the end of the year. You've got an election next year. Do you want to spend the $100,000 or do you want to appoint right now? Again, that's what Pelham did. The city of St. Catharines did it that way. They appointed. There's been a couple vacancies in city councils, but one was a passing of a councillor and the other was a resignation of a councillor. They did the by-election because they had so much time. But the one person was just sworn in not long ago. Like it took almost a little over a year by the time they got all that together. To me, I think that's too long to allow somebody to get in. Because quite frankly, we have a big budget coming at region this year. We have 13 budget meetings over and above all the other meetings that we go to on a monthly basis. We need a good, strong voice down there to represent Port Colborne and represent our feelings also around this table on what we need to do. So we got to get that person there as soon as possible. Those budget meetings are starting early this year. That was the will of council. So, we just need a good, strong voice path tonight to get that person in that seat as soon as possible. Do I have anybody that wants to make a recommendation to staff or with council to recommend staff? Councillor Baggy, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd like to make a recommendation to make an appointment for Niagara Regional Councilor, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, seconder to that? Councillor Beauregard. I got all 3 Bs right in a row. Beauregard, questions to that? Are there any questions to that? Yeah, I just want to make sure it's out there, yeah. Okay, so Councillor Bruno?
So does that entail, through to the clerk, does that entail posting this to the general public? And basically, we would be asking for a resume or something similar?
Madam Clerk?
I will turn it to the deputy clerk if I'm forgetting anything, but through you, Mr. Mayor. So, yeah, we would be posting it on an ad on the city's website, and we've been working with comms to get that ready for tomorrow, hopefully, best case scenario. And so it will be posted on the city's website, and they will be asked to submit a resume as well as a statement confirming that they are, or that they've, what is it? I'll refer to my deputy.
Through you, Mayor, a written statement of consent saying that they would accept the position should they be appointed. Yeah. So those 2 items would be what we would ask for, and should you folks approve this, that's, as the clerk had outlined, that would be the plan we would do.
Councillor?
Just one last question on that. I mean, we just did appointments for the hospital committee, right? And so those all came in, the clerks categorized them, the little story behind them, had access to the resume. But then it was a in-camera process. Is that the same for this?
Through you, Councilor Bruno, yes. We would similarly compile all of the resumes that are received, prepare a summary that would be presented to council in closed session, in which case they can at that time either shortlist the items or they can move to make a motion and open of the candidate that they wish to go with.
I don't know if this is out of bounds to do that, but I think some councillors have all commented the high caliber of resumes that we're getting these days, particularly on the last go around. This is an issue that I guess I would ask might need further scrutiny than just a resume. Is it possible, depending on the volume, is it possible to take the resume and in camera ask for people to come forward for clarification or quasi-interview?
So my short answer without being able to look into this further would probably be no. There is an opportunity for them to come in open council and provide a presentation if council so chooses to ask them to provide a presentation to further explain their qualifications, what makes them a good candidate to be in this position. That would happen in open. That would not happen in closed.
That's fine. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Further questions? Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How do you've just said, and I know I've sat on regional council when I was mayor, and I know the number of meetings during the day, you want to be on those committees. How are people going to find out about that? I mean, somebody may just think that's a great job, maybe it's like a council, you meet mostly at night.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's a great question. The deputy clerk and I were just discussing it earlier today, and we were hoping include as part of the ad the schedule of the regional councillor meetings for or a link to at least the schedule of where it's posted on the Niagara Region's website, as well as what makes them a qualified candidate pursuant to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Elections Act. But I definitely think a link to their calendar, or at least, or the calendar itself, should be made available when applying, so that they are aware of what kind of commitment it is when they apply.
Councillor?
Just further, because I know we've got a big deal going with water and sewer and at the region and the budget. So, Mr. Mayor, would you think those budget meetings are already listed on their calendar? And if not, that's a big deal. Somebody would want to know there's possibly 13 meetings that may or may not be on that calendar.
Yeah, they are on there. I'm just trying to think back to last Thursday night. They had the first 12. Council added a 13th meeting. Majority, they're probably split between day and night. Some are at night. There's a lot in the day. There's workshops that are part of the budget process. They'll take like water and sewer, for instance, and do just a separate workshop. They'll take public works. They'll take community services, things like that. So yeah, like just normally there's 4 committees that meet Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 2 each day. Councilors are asked to at least pick 2 of those. Some sit on 2, 3, all 4, but at least 2 of those. Councilor Davies did sit on 2 of those. We have a numerous amount of committees though that are already set. So like Police Services Board that I serve on, that's done. So a new person coming in, unless somebody quit a committee, they could vie for that position. But right now there's nothing there. It's like NPCA, public housing, a number of those. But there are all kinds of committees. The Agricultural Committee, I also sit on that. That meets during the day. We can have up to many councillors that wants to sit on that. So there are a number of committees above the main 4. But the majority of those meetings are during the day. But again, there's a free Thursday, so this coming Thursday, there's not a meeting set. Now, I doubt if they'll do one now, but last Thursday, they could have said, we are having a committee next Thursday. We'll start at 4:30 normally, and then go to whatever time. So, yeah, there's a lot of meetings. So.
It's fine. I just think it'd be fair to somebody that, they need to know the lay of the land if they want to.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And if they want to call me and ask, my phone is open. They can call me and ask me questions on exactly what goes on down the region. So, Councillor Baggy first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess to use the clerk, will council be given the name of every qualified person that applies for this position? Not shortlisted? I heard the word shortlisted. So I got a little worried that.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Council will get the names of everybody who does apply. Council will then have the option of shortlisting it, so that those shortlists can come in open session at the next meeting to present their qualifications. That's something that's an option for council to do. Sorry if I confused for the confusion.
Do you, Mr. Mayor? I don't apologize. It's probably my ears. Thank you.
Councillor Bruno.
A little further qualification, like some people could make those meetings if they get out of work at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, but the 4 that are you talked about that Thursday, a meeting being called, but like corporate services and HR, like when you say they meet during the day, those key 4 that you should belong to, what's the time frame for those meetings?
So Tuesday, Wednesday, the first meetings start at 9:30 in the morning, go to 1. Most of the times you're out of there before 1, and then the next meeting goes 1 to 3. Okay. Normally, but they tend to go. They can go longer because there's probably nobody coming in the council chamber after them. But our morning meetings have to be done before they start. Okay. So you've got public works on Tuesday mornings. I think corporate services is Tuesday afternoons. Public health is Wednesday mornings, and Wednesday afternoons planning and economic development.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then Fridays, one Friday every other month is the Ag Committee. They're at 9:30 in the morning, and they go to about 11. Okay. All right, further questions? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Item 13.3, this is brought forward for Councillor Beauregard's conflict. If I could have Councillors Aquilina and Begg move that the Development and Government Relations Department Report 2025-85 be received. The Council approve entering into the agreement of purchase and sale with Port Colborne Quarries Inc. for city land legally described as Barber Drive Plan, Part 1 on Plan 59R-16975, part of Lot 26, Concession 2, that the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign the bylaw for the agreement of purchase and sale and any all respecting the sale of these lands. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. Item 13.4, noise variance request 250 Pleasant Beach Road, Capri Restaurant 2025-121, moved by Councillors Bodner, seconded by Councillor Aquilina. The Community Safety and Enforcement Department Report 2025-121 be received. Council approve a permit to exempt 250 Pleasant Beach Road, Capri Restaurant from Section 4.3 of the bylaw 4588/119/04 with the following terms and conditions: that a noise variance with modifications be approved for the period starting from May 1st, 2025 to October 31st, 2025 from noon to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and ending at 11 on Fridays and Saturdays for a variety of amplified noise, including karaoke and live bands, being able to amplify music. The permit is applicable only to the production, reproduction, and amplification of sound in connection with events at this property with the modifications by the City of Port Colborne. We do have staff here if you have any questions. I'll go to questions. Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see we have our bylaw people here. So in the letter that was sent out to people, and I think also the application, oh no, it's, okay, so in the letter that was sent out to people, it only talks about acoustic music. Am I right thinking that isn't a rock band, that's more softer music? Is there a definition of that in our bylaw that would hold them to that if that is the kind of music I think it is?
Mr. Moore.
Through the mayor to council. So basically how we determine it is the noise variance would be for any music that's produced through a loudspeaker. So if they strictly adhere to acoustic, so that means acoustic guitars, basses, percussion instruments, and no microphones to amplify sound, then they would be already outside the scope of our noise bylaw, and they wouldn't need this exemption. If they change any of it and put anything through amplification, then it would require that exemption from our noise bylaw. So we don't define acoustic music to rock and roll music or anything like that. It's just dependent on how it's utilized from the service that they're doing.
Councillor?
Okay, so another thing I seen in the letter they sent out was that they talk about having Mondays for karaoke, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, live solo or duo artists playing acoustic-based music. They don't mention Wednesdays at all. So I guess that letter that they sent out really doesn't mean a whole lot. It's either they're going to have the okay to do the amplified with mics and everything if we give them the okay, right?
Mr. Morton?
Through the mayor to council. That's correct, yes. If we give the exemption for the noise variance, then it would include whatever parameters are set out within the noise variance.
Okay. And then I noticed, for some reason it's giving me more information than I want here, 1 second. I did see that there was a concern by bylaw that, I'm still looking for that concern. It says staff have minor objections to the proposed noise variance. I would like to revoke the variance permit should Capri Restaurant fail to mitigate any noise that has disturbed the neighbors area and or vary from the dates and times approved by council. I'm all for that. If we want that in there, do we have to specifically ask to put that in? Because this talks about this will be a permanent noise variance. There's a temporary and a permanent. I would like to see something that if they turn into bad actors, that it could be pulled somehow. I think that's fair to the community. Can you comment on that?
So it is a temporary permit. It is from May 1st to October 31st. So between those times, that's when the exemption would be allowed. If they do vary from that exemption at all, so if they do exceed any time limits that we put out there, we can implement fines on them, or at any point we could speak about revoking their permit.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear also. I guess I'll wait to hear if Councillor Aguilera has some words of wisdom for us here.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Travis. Under option 2, I just would like a little clarification. Points 1 and 2 state reduced times limiting the noise to 11 p.m. or earlier. But then when we go down to implementing 1 or 4 of the bottom options, it's saying noise created in the open air must conclude by 10 p.m. So if we went with all 4 options, then every event would end at 10 p.m.?
Through the mayor to council. So option 2 does state that it would reduce the time limits to noise for 11 p.m. or earlier for 1 and 2, and then the establishing the dates and restrictions that events can occur. The section underneath that, the 1, 2, 3, and 4, are additional steps that council could take if they wanted to go beyond option 1 or 2. So if you wanted to have noise within the buildings go until 11:59 p.m., that is an option that you can add on top of it. If it's something that you wanted to, option 3 on there, outdoor open air noise may only occur 3 or 4 weekends per month. So you could choose that. So it would limit them instead of having every weekend of the month, they could go down to 3 weekends a month. It's whatever council would decide to add in addition to the restrictions that we would put on through the noise variance.
Okay, so the 4 options are not part of option 2. They're separate?
Through the mayor to council, yes, that's correct. Okay. Those would be ones that you would be able to implement if you so choose to put them in.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to make an amendment, you can go ahead.
Like adding some of
definitely.
these to option 2?
Yep.
Okay. I think, if I'm correct, during the week and on Sundays, you mentioned in the report the times ending at 10 p.m. and then Fridays and Saturdays would be 11 p.m.?
Through the mayor to council, that is correct, yes. Sunday through Thursday would conclude at 10 p.m. and Fridays and Saturdays would go until 11 p.m.
Okay, so I'm okay with that. And it's hard to tell because they don't have a list of dates that they submitted, so it's hard to tell how many weekends they would be. I don't know, yeah, go ahead.
So you're fine right now? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go to Councilor Bagu. Sure. And then I'll go back. Thank you, Councilor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you and, I guess Travis, welcome Travis. I don't think I've seen you up here yet. So I'll be gentle with you. What Councilor Aquilino was talking about, is it possible a condition of a license or the permit is to get the dates of all the dates that are gonna produce music? That be a condition by council?
Through the mayor to council. If that is something that council chooses to do, that's something that could be done. If they would like to deny this application for the noise variance, it would be something that the store owners would have to provide to us, then that would be an option that you would have to choose.
Yeah. To you, Mr. Mayor, all I'm thinking of is for enforcement for bylaw, if you don't even know they're gonna be playing there in a band and everybody's at home, well, how can you enforce it? Somebody that is breaking a bylaw when you're don't even know it's happening. The other thing, to you, Mr. Mayor, is parking. I was down there Sunday, went inside, very nice people working in there. I have no problem with the people running the place. It's nice and clean. Having music attracts more vehicles, more people, which attracts more vehicles. And I know we are pretty stringent on parking restrictions up there. And do we blame the people parking the cars, or do we blame the people with the band attracting all the people? What I'm getting at is you're going to go there taking 20 cars where it's, not really their fault. It's because they're being attracted to this place and no repercussions from the bar. But I guess I'm asking too much, I think, but just your thought.
Through the mayor to council, we do have approximately 13 to 15 parking stalls in that location. We do have officers 7 days a week that go out during the summer months until 8, 9 o'clock at night, especially on the weekends. So we do check that parking and we do look for any violations that are out there. Anyone that's in violations on the road allowance will be ticketed. I think what you're talking about is there are people who go out there and they park on private property, which we don't have jurisdiction on.
Councilor Bodnar?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we can assume if they're going to ask for the right to have bands 7 nights a week, that they probably are going to have bands or somebody playing music 7 nights a week. I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure last year was every weekend for sure. Whether they did it during the week, I can't say definite. But I think the times, I guess, are not too bad, 10 o'clock, but I'm just trying to think, if you're a neighbor there, do you really enjoy bands every night of the week? Maybe not so much. But I guess what I would like, Travis, this is a temporary permit, you said. If they deviate from what they said they were going to do, then you have some authority to go in and either stop them or close them down. What happens if we get into July and it's really gotten out of hand for some reason? They're still in their box that they said they were going to be in. How do we revisit this if there is something that goes real crazy?
Through the mayor to council, I believe that would be dealt with under the circumstances. So if we are talking about excessive amounts of parking and they are parking vehicles illegally on their property, we look through either our zoning bylaw or lot maintenance bylaw to penalize them for that. If we're looking at public nuisance, we would go through our public nuisance bylaw or have the Niagara Regional Police attend. And if the scope does vary too far outside of what we deem allowable or within good faith of this variance, then it's something that we could discuss possibly revoking and discussing it with them if they continue these measures, that we could revoke their noise variance.
Sure, and thank you for that, because that's very helpful. Would bylaw be having that conversation with them right off the get-go? And so that they know that they're kind of under the microscope if something goes crazy? Is that something you can do or would do, or if council told you to do it, you'd do it?
Through the mayor to council, if that was the direction from council, we could definitely speak with the owners of the property and let them know that, if this variance goes through, that we will be monitoring the situation, and if anything does change, we could potentially take further actions.
Sure. Whatever way this goes, I'd like that put into the, to make an amendment or add to or something like that.
Madam Clerk, are we all right with that as a friendly amendment? Or do you want to do a straight, you want a full amendment to give staff direction to lay the law down from day one? Basically is what it is?
Yeah.
Councillor Aquilina, you're fine with that? So it's an amendment to the motion that's on the floor. That staff discuss with the applicant ramifications if they go offline.
Sure. There may be another amendment, I don't know.
Well, we'll deal with that one first.
Yes,
We'll deal with this amendment first. Questions to this amendment for staff to give staff that direction. Questions, comments? All in favor? Okay.
Okay.
Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two questions. If something occurs after bylaw leaves for the night, what would be the protocol? Is it for residents to record or call police? How would residents deal with those matters?
Mr. Moore.
Through the mayor to council, the residents could call and put a complaint in through bylaw enforcement. They could also contact the Niagara Regional Police, as if the variance passes, it does get circulated to the Niagara Regional Police, so they would have the exact times that they would be allowed to play their music. And also, if a resident does want to put in a complaint or would like to swear an affidavit, we can move forward with enforcement through that as well.
Okay, and do they need to have video of that or just a signed statement?
Through the mayor to council, they could have a video, they could have a recording, or they could swear an affidavit just through their own testimony.
Okay, and one other question in regards to violations. So is it like a staggered progression? So if they have one infraction against the variance, there's a process, and then how many chances do they get?
Through the mayor to council, we do have our tiered fining system through our non-parking AMS. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head which the fines are, but there is the first fine, and then it doubles, and then doubles again on the third offense. And we could definitely use that tool to start with, and if they exceeded the tier fining, that would be where we talked about escalating it to removal of their variance.
Travis, when we did the Belmont, similar to with the Belmont for their Friday nights, we did a trial period for that first year, and then it came back to us, and staff didn't have an issue, and we continued to support that business with their Friday night music. Was there anything in that agreement that we did, or, 'cause I think they're fairly similar, and I think what council's talked about tonight is pretty much similar, that, if you're gonna get out of line, we're gonna cut you off. So whether it's a fine the first time, but, if it's 2, 3, 4 times, then all of a sudden, I think you're gonna be back here saying, council, I'm pulling the plug. They're no longer gonna have music for the rest of term of this agreement. So am I correct in saying that it's fairly similar to what we did with the Belmont, although they were only one night, but still it's music on a night basis?
To you, the mayor, yes, that, it would be very similar to that.
Okay.
Or what we've done with Shirkston Shores in the past as well.
Okay. Further questions, guys? Councillor Elliott?
I've read this, I don't know how many times. It's staff recommendation. It says Sunday through Thursday, ending at 11, Fridays and Saturdays, yada, yada, yada. But there's a copy of the letter that they sent out to the residents that says, and am I reading this wrong? Hello, neighbors. Then it continues on, and it says Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. It says nothing about Wednesday and Sunday. It says bands from 7 to 10, and yet in the staff report, it says it's 11 o'clock.
No, Sunday to Thursdays, 10.
Sunday to Thursdays.
It's 10.
Okay.
Friday and Saturdays, 11.
In the Capri's letter to their neighbors, it doesn't say anything about Wednesdays or Sundays.
Are they closed those days?
It says Mondays karaoke, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Friday, and Saturday. End of discussion. Hours of our live acoustic bands will run from 7 to 10. So that's what they handed out to their neighbors. But the staff report says something different.
Travis, can you comment on that?
Through the mayor to council. In their letter to the residents, they did put those times in. However, on the application, they did ask for music until midnight. And we used that as that is their application and not their letter to the residents. And once they sent the letter to the residents out, they did send an email amendment asking if they could go down to 11 o'clock from their midnight that they put on their application because of the feedback they received from the residents. So their application and their letter did not correspond with each other.
So what are they asking for? You tell your neighbors one thing, and then you kind of say, well, there wasn't much pushback, so we're going to go to 11, but you never really told your neighbors that.
Well, no, they originally wanted to go to 12.
Right, but then they said 10.
No. On the 12 o'clock was Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Now
But
they're asking for 11.
But the letter to the neighbors said 10. Did they go back and send out another letter that say we changed our mind and want to go to 11?
Through the mayor to council, they did not. They sent an email directly to our office as they had already put in their application, so they needed an amendment to their application. So they initially sent out the letter to the public, and they received the feedback, which they acknowledged that 12 p.m. for their application was too late, so they asked for an amendment down to 11 o'clock through their application, not through the letter.
Okay, but for 7 days a week. Is that, so their application is for 7 days a week till 11 p.m.? Through
the mayor to council. Their application and their letter to the residents did not match. So therefore,
Yes.
their application was the 11 p.m. 7 days a week, but their letter to the residents was the different one.
Said 5 days
Which
a
was,
week till
yes,
10
5 days a week until 10 o'clock.
So is that the old bait and switch? Here, we're gonna do this, and oh yeah, by the way, we wanna amend it on our application, but don't tell your neighbors. Like, I have an issue with that. Like, tell your neighbors what you wanna do. Be upfront about it. You didn't. You said, here's the letter, this is what we wanna do. Oh, thank you for that. We appreciate your feedback. Oh, and by the way, we wanna go 7 days a week, and we wanna go at 11 o'clock now. Do the neighbors know that? We passed that, and all of a sudden they're playing till 11 o'clock. They come back to council, go, this letter says 10. Right? Like, I don't know if anybody else sees a problem with that, but I do. Like, big time. The comments were made from the residents based on the letter that was delivered to them. This is what we think is going to happen, or this is what you're telling us is going to happen. We may comment on that. And then they go around and then they go back and get it changed. I don't know. I get the 7-day-a-week thing.
Well, Counselor,
Yep.
you can actually, if you want, you can refer it back to staff. You can say, based on this recommendation, that you would ask them to send out a letter based on what staff has proposed to council with these times and days, and they can send those out to their, and then give those people time to comment back, and then they can have staff can come back with this at our next meeting. Give them that much time. If that's what you want, you can do that. I know you've spoken on it, but
Yeah.
I understand what you're trying to say here, but.
I'll wait and just see what other councillors have to say.
Okay.
That's just me.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Councillor Beauregard.
Yes, Your Worship, I think Councillor Elliott makes an excellent point, and in any sort of quasi-judicial aspect in like a minor variance application, if you don't provide proper notice, then it shouldn't be decided and you defer it until, or to a later date when proper notice is provided. So I think it's important that we do that.
Councillor Bodnar.
I think that's fair. I think when Councillor Agolina and I read it, we were going over it, trying to figure out, who changed what and why, but yeah, Councillor Elliott's right. If you tell the neighbors one thing and then you fill an application out, send it to the city, and it comes to us, we pass it, then the neighbors say, well, hold it, that's not what they told us they're going to do. So I think to be fair, that sending it back wouldn't be out of line.
Okay, can I, just to make sure we follow our rules here, I've got 3 councillors that haven't spoken on this. I don't think you haven't spoken, right, Councillor Bagley, on this? Or did you ask a question? You did ask a question? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Bruno hasn't, so don't comment, only because.
I've been following the debate, and when there's nothing new to add, there's no reason to add.
If council wishes that, if you could move it, then I can get a seconder, and if that's what you want. It's up to you. I'm just saying, you haven't spoken on it. So if you're fine with it, you're fine.
I'm fine with the recommendation.
Councillor Aquilina?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we do redirection back to staff, can we add that a list of events is part of their application? Like, is that mandatory?
Oh, you want us, basically you want them to
yeah, like,
fill out a calendar with the days that they're going to be running.
yeah, it's hard I find it hard to approve something when I don't know what the.
We certainly can ask that.
Okay.
Definitely. So.
Do I need to, is it a motion that has to be done, or?
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna have councillors Bodnar and Aquilina, if they want to put forward to refer back to staff with regards to a letter going out, again, based on what Councillor Elliott and Beauregard have stated, to go out to the neighbors with what is in this report, and that also that they come back with a calendar of events for us. So they can just take a calendar and actually X out those dates that we know something's gonna happen. We don't need to know exactly what it is, whether it's karaoke or a guitar player, but these are the actual nights from now till October 31st. And then then they get some time it'll come back to our next council meeting. They'll have time to talk to the neighbors, take comments. They can get those comments to you like they did with this one, and then it can be brought back with any changes that you deem possible. Or those questions can be answered to council. Does that make sense, Councillor?
Can I just ask through staff, is that time frame doable? Because to be fair to the restaurant, they want to know, you know, summer's here. Well, can't tell by the weather, but, you know.
Be June 24th.
Creeping up on us.
It's June 24th.
Sure.
That's when it'll come back.
Yep, that's, hey, it's not our mistake. Sorry.
Just out of all this debate, we have Shirkson every year do this. We've had the Belmont do it. We've had now these guys do it for a second time. Should we just not have a protocol? The people who want a variance, this is what you do. You do your neighbors within so many feet. You list what nights. You list if it's bands versus just DJ or things like that. Because I just think we're letting them fly by the seat of their pants and what to submit, and we could avoid all this potentially in the future. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take that as a comment that we can take back to staff, because it really, although it doesn't affect this one, but yes, that the bylaws puts together a policy that no matter what it is, these are our rules. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I know. Okay, so this is referring us back to staff with those asks. Any further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Okay? Go ahead.
Can I just comment that, Travis, you gave us exactly what we needed tonight. Thank you. That was, you know, there wasn't anything left out and everything. So, you know, no pressure, but the next time you got to be right on again. So, gotcha.
Thanks, Travis. Item 13.5 is recommendation report for proposed communication tower at 611 Main Street West, file D27-12, 2025-97, moved by Councilors Bruno and Dance, the Development and Government Relations Department report 2025-97 be received. That all comments received on the proposed communications tower at 611 Main Street West be provided to the applicant, SLI Towers, and the Approval Authority, Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, the ISED. Questions? Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Your Worship. I lifted this item, but I also attended the open house with the proponent and a couple of residents from the Merritt Parkway area, and one, the developer on what might be known as the old Toddco subdivision that's expired, but it's already zoned in behind this, in the rear of Merritt Parkway to do that. So I don't know if anybody's had a chance to see. I got this letter given to me by a resident. This was the handout that the company proposing it to do. And if you look at this tower, it's not even like the monopole tube tower that you see now. It's what I refer to back as, in the old days, this webbed tower. I don't know if it's galvanized metal or whatever. But there was some debate in that meeting from the residents as to whether this is 10 stories or 12 stories. And there's also a debate about if you go further down Highway 3, you'll see that monopole tower that's, I think, in the rear of the old Port Pontiac there. Is it that where it is? I'm pretty sure that's where it is.
Where it is now, you mean?
Yes. The other tower.
Oh, down by the old Bella.
Yes.
Bella, yeah.
And so that is supposedly smaller than this tower, and that's pretty large. So I know we can only be we can't approve or deny, we can only comment to this. But the two questions I asked of the proponent, who was zoomed in and I think is available, is, the residents were talking about, this thing sits basically in the backyard of a house on Merritt Parkway, and it is also going to be an issue potentially for the developer that is going to be proposing a revitalization of what was Toddco. So this, to me, is a question of what do you want your city to look like? And these towers are sprouting up because there's obviously more need for it. But at the end of the day, we're talking about, I forget what the distance is from the other tower that's there. But if that's the way of the future, then we need to be looking at this, because there could be towers every 900 meters is the number I heard that could sprout up. The other issue, the issue that I brought up was, and I talked to the chief planner before this, is that there already is that tower at the old Bella Villa. And the federal government, as I recall, came out with some regulations where they wanted these companies to co-mingle on a tower, as opposed to having all these towers. I'll let the proponent speak to that, but his issue was that couldn't happen with this tower. I'm not technically up to speed on how that can or can't be done. But at the end of the day, my real question to him was, is there a workaround that might be more expensive, but is better suited to our neighborhoods and the character of the city we want to do? His answer, if I can just paraphrase it, was no, it's like radio stations that can only do so far. Again, I don't know the answer to that technically. But what I do want to do is, because I think this could be a precedent easily, if, that area isn't any more populated than any other urban area, in whether it's in Ward 1 or Ward 2. So I'm not quite sure the rationale why it's needed now. But I think at some point we have to be, I guess, peer reviewing what we're told. So I don't know if there is a better alternative that can be moved elsewhere. I mean, we do have lands around there, whether it's by the old West Arena or other places that might be different. I don't think that's the answer, but in deference to them, there's demand, there's a technology, and I'm sure the federal government put this into place so that communities couldn't just keep saying, no, 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 not in my backyard, and yet we need this infrastructure. But I think it's incumbent upon us to do everything we can to ensure the look of our community, but more importantly, that what we're being told is the only solution. So I'd be asking if our chief planner could comment on that idea of what we can do, what his comments might be, and what does he need some kind of direction from us tonight. Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor. Thank you for the thoughts and for attending the open house tonight. I know that we did speak to some of the residents in advance of the open house, and then they did come again to hear from the proponent. I think you raised some valid points, and I've got some questions around how the approvals for this work as well. I've been going through sort of the Infrastructure Industry Canada process for the approvals. I will note that on this application, comments are due to the applicant, which are sort of co-due to the federal government regulator for June 13th. So I don't believe I've got time to come back to council, but I can certainly take some direction from the comments we got from residents tonight, from the questions that you raised, Councillor Bruno, and put together some correspondence to the federal government just related to the fact that there are other towers in proximity to this. There is future development land immediately abutting this to the north and to the west. And just to, if it's the desire of council to indicate either support or non-support for this particular application, because even though we're not in a position to approve it, I don't think that that limits us from expressing a position on it.
Councillor?
Yes, I hope council could support that. I like that. I'm just wondering if, sorry, if we could have more time to perhaps investigate whether there are alternatives on our own, because I think there are other experts out there, there are independent experts, is what the proponent is saying the only solution. And so I'm wondering if we can also ask for some more time for us to investigate that. I don't want to go out, spend a ton of money and have a consultant's report, but on a cursory basis, if, you know, what else is there? Why can't they be duplicated? Is there a mechanism to force duplication onto the one tower just because it doesn't work now? Maybe there's an amendment, they spend some money on the other tower and two can commingle there. But I think we need to get some advice, and if that needs more time, that we request it, in addition to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The applicant for the tower is here. He was at the public meeting. He's got his hand up, so just introduce yourself and just your name and your address, please. Can you hear us, Dom?
Okay, I believe it might be working now.
Oh, there you are. We can hear you now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Mayor and Council. And just to give a little background on a few of the questions or comments raised this evening. Our proposal was for a telecom tower on Main Street, and we did look at the highway corridor as kind of more advantageous in terms of keeping it away from more residentially zoned properties while placing it in the community. We opted for this style of tower because we felt the white monopoles tend to stick out a bit more in against, I guess, the tree line in the back, whereas the lattice style might help allow for tree line or for the sky to kind of come through. This tower, while it might seem, I guess, taller and on paper, kind of in that zoomed in view, it is going to be shorter than the existing tower to the west by I think about 10 feet. And this tower would be shorter than the two existing monopoles. The monopole to the north, a lot near the sanitation station, is 10-15 meters taller, and the one down by the docks is about 10-15 meters taller. So this pole will be quite a bit smaller. The image might show or might, I guess, appear differently. And I believe and we're happy to also work with council in terms of recommendations if council had a preference or planning staff had a recommendation of the style or the height and they wanted it lowered. The style changed to any style they preferred. We're happy to do that. We've done flagpoles in the past. We've kind of altered our proposal to work with the cities, and we're here to work with the community. We're not here to kind of propose something and just kind of go to ISED for our approval. We're here to work with planning and council and the residents. And in terms of its proximity to residential, the monopole to the north near the sanitation station is a bit closer than ours would be to the residents along Merritt. And so just to give a little bit of background, I know sometimes it looks worse on paper than it might be. And so just to give a little context in terms of the height, it is quite a bit shorter than the existing poles, and I guess the existing pole to the west, and it is going to be further from the houses back on Merritt than the existing poles are to those properties, I guess, across from the storage yard. And yeah, again, we're just here to take some advice and or comments, and same thing from the public consultation earlier, and work with residents and council on our proposal.
Great, thank you. So, Counselor, just with regards to height, based on what it says here, 38 meters, about 125 feet. And the one by the old Bella Villa, I believe, is 57 meters. Just so for context. And how high we allow a building in town? What's our maximum height? Was it 18 meters?
Through the mayor, because it's a communications tower.
No, normally on a apartment building.
An apartment building? It's going to depend on the zone, but the tower is exempt from the height.
Yeah, no, but just normal, so people can get an idea. But I think it's 18 meters we allow a building?
Likely.
I think it's 18 meters, yeah. So this is 38, so just for councils. Okay. Any further comments or questions or anything on this one? So again, Councillor Bonner?
So just to pick up on Councillor Bruno and asking for information on that, it isn't a one-off because we had one proposed for Centennial Park that may or may not be coming back, I don't know. That is one we can't say no to because it's on city property, I understand. But, so this information could be used if that ever comes back. So, okay, thank you.
I think, Councillor, with what you have asked staff, specifically Eric, I think in what what Dom had said as the applicant on this, to work with us. So as long as we get as much information and whatever you guys need to do to talk to him and see what we need on that, and the style of tower, if he's willing to change that to make it better for the neighborhood. So, okay, you can take that as direction then, Aaron, with that. Okay. Further comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Dom.
Thank you so much, Council and Mayor and planning team.
All right. Staff remarks. Oh, sorry. Oh, I apologize. Because I turned the page for that last line on the last one. I just quickly looked out, thought it was this one. I apologize. 13.6, regulations for marine contractors at Sugarloaf Marina, 2025-60. Could I have Councilors Bruno and Danich move that the Recreation and Tourism Department Report 2025-60 be received, and that the Recreation and Tourism Department Report 2025-60 recommendations be approved, and that the regulations for marine contractors at Sugarloaf Marina take effect on the day of passing, and that the manager of Recreation and Tourism and appointed division staff be delegated the authority to implement and administer the regulations and to take all actions and make all decisions, including all enforcement measures required under the regulations. Councillor
Bruno. Thank you, Worship. I think it's an excellent report. It's unfortunate the way things had happened somewhat a year ago that required the re-look at this. I think this is a new, improved version. I know there was a lot of work put into it, so thank you, gentlemen, very much. My question really centers around a couple of things, the wording in there. It talks about, I think it's on page 3 of 5 in the report, and I just lost my screen for a minute, so I'll go off my verbal notes. On the second paragraph, there's that the marina would still request. And then further on in the third paragraph, this is for boaters that are there. Boaters will now be asked to. And so my only concern is that it should be a requirement as opposed to a request. And so I know that wording's just in the report. But I think if we're saying boaters, as per their contract upgrade now, have to provide this, I just think it's more, it emphasizes that this is something that needs to be done, as opposed, well, we'd like you to do it. And so really I'm focused around if we're going to have a new process, that everybody's clear that it's not a pass. It's, you now have to do it this way. It opens up competition to more people, allows people to do their own work, but you still can't really avoid, the insurance liability issues and all else that goes with your report. So my question was really focused on just how that wording was. So I don't know if you have any comments.
Mr. Holliday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. Appreciate the question. So, yeah, just to clarify, that might have been something that was a recommendation when we were speaking with legal on how to best proceed with that. And the two pieces that you mentioned there in being a requirement versus an ask of a boater, I think the report speaks to the fact that there's a lot of boaters that actually perform a lot of their own work on their vessels. So that was that nuance in there in saying that, okay, well, what we already experienced with the current program is a number of times where even though we have what's considered a requirement right now for contractors to be registered and whatnot, boaters will come in and they'll use their own, contractors they're working with, or they'll say, oh, this is just my friend and he's a mechanic. So that was just some of the dialogue we had with legal when speaking about this is, how to navigate that right there, and that, we might be able to say to everybody that this is a strict requirement on things, but at the end of the day, boaters are going to do what they want, and that was the big question we had: is what do we do in those cases where boaters are saying, well, this is just my friend Jim, he's a mechanic, or I do it myself. I don't have a business with legitimate business insurance or registered through the WSIB board, those types of things. And it was legal's advice that in those cases, that's why we updated some of the language in the actual boater agreements to basically have a secondary layer of coverage in that responsibility being transferred back to them, saying, if the boater chooses to work with somebody, we are going to put it out there, I think, to your point, and say we require this as the marina and we expect this. But if a boater chooses to work with somebody who doesn't do their due diligence and come into the office and register the new party agreement that we have, then that responsibility is going to lay at the feet of the boater themselves.
I think you've covered it off very well in the boaters agreement and updating that, and if they want to do it themselves or have someone do it, that's great. I just wanted the gravitas of it to be understood that, you've now got all these other opportunities, but you still need to follow the rules. Thank you.
Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Blair, sorry. I do appreciate the conversations we had before you went down this road, and I am in agreement as well. I just have a question in regards to the non-compliance. So it stays the same, that staff has the delegation to freeze or suspend or whatever they're doing before it goes to that committee. Is it going to be similar to like what we just heard with bylaw, where it's like a tiered, like first infraction and things like that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. Absolutely. We didn't define something in there because of the nature of issues being just varying so much, and there's so many varying demographics down at the marina. There's so many different cases of issues that we have, different patterns we might see. So we felt it was important to be able to still have control of a situation regardless of what previous patterns are there. But absolutely we'll confirm to council that would be part of the process. In any kind of decision making, what we would be doing is the frontline staff who are going to be making the decisions and the recommendations will essentially have a file or a case of information to go behind what we're recommending. And the other piece that I would like to highlight to council too is that these scenarios we're talking about right now are probably the most minimal scenarios that we're going to get to, knock on wood, because these would be examples of really egregious things happening where we have to talk about maybe removing privileges of access for somebody. So when we get to that point, usually we're talking about more serious incidents, which aren't the norm. Most things that happen there we deal with in-house and nobody ever hears anything about it and we're able to manage it. But we do take notes internally, so if things are becoming a problem, we will definitely have that as a factor. And the one last thing I'll add to that too is that that's the idea about adding the internal review committee. we felt that that's just an extra layer of governance that we can put forward and be transparent about and just show that we're doing our due diligence. And knowing that it's important for the frontline staff to be able to have the ability to, we use the word specifically temporary, for a temporary suspension or what name you. And if we feel it's important enough, we would then escalate it to that committee just to say, hey, have a different eye at this. Do you think we have it right? Are we missing something? Or do you agree with what recommendations being put forward? And I think when we had some of those discussions too, to your point about the tiered system, there will be that ability in there to say that not every situation is going to really warrant a suspension or a removal or a termination. Sometimes it's just as simple as, okay, you know what? We're going to remove you from this area, and maybe you're going to play nicer over here or what have you. So we'll really be looking at that on a situation-to-situation basis.
Councillor?
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And I think from those conversations that we had, like I really can see like a more formalized process that you've put in place, which I really appreciate. So thank you for the work that you did.
Councillor Borgray?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, to Blair. I guess I have a little bit of a concern regarding the one part of the recommendation, which is the delegated authority to implement, like essentially it's saying to implement and administer the regulations and take all actions and make all decisions, including all enforcement measures. So does that mean that there's no, because as Councillor Acklinger said, there's a tier system, mentioned that, and you confirmed, but what's the top tier, I guess, in that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Council. Maybe I didn't clarify enough too, but I will just highlight again. So we will be approaching things with a tiered system, but in that we're not defining a tiered system. So there's not, a mandate or a script of what we follow. I think I mentioned we're going to treat things on a case-by-case scenario. And to the piece about delegated authority, I think if I can highlight to Council what we really are asking with that is that at the end of the day, it's really going to be the frontline staff in most of these situations that are dealing with this. And sometimes the timing piece is really, a piece where, having the time on our side to make a decision. And I'll stress again, in a temporary scenario, if we feel that something warrants being able to just effectively right away, okay, I'll use the NRP as an example. If we have somebody come down from the NRP based on a call that was in, there's a physical threat or a perceived threat to property, things like that. The frontline staff in the moment, just having that ability to say, okay, we need to mitigate this right now, and if we feel that it's warranted to ask this person to leave, you're not welcome back until we then escalate it to a further review for a final decision. That's kind of what we're asking for here.
Your Worship, if someone were feeling that staff were not treating them fairly, let's say, what would be how would that be handled, I guess? Because I guess my concern is, I think it's fine to streamline it to a certain extent when things aren't being followed and it's clear cut. But if they feel that staff isn't treating them fairly, it's kind of a biased process because it's staff that's making the decision. So I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can have like an independent sort of body that can hear both sides as opposed to staff hearing it and dealing with it on their own. So I'm just curious as to your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. I appreciate the question. It's a really good question. And my comment to that is we did consider that in the process. I think we even spoke with some councillors about it in the process getting to this point. We even considered, do we make a committee of council on this? And the one thing we came back to is that realistically, we just didn't want to put council on the spot. Is what we decided in those moments. A lot of things we've heard over the years from council, whenever there's been scenarios where boaters or contractors or anybody like that is coming to council with a concern or a complaint, the feedback we've received was that, or at least what the message we've heard from council is that we don't want everybody just feeling like they should be coming to council and trying to get us to make decisions on these things. So the approach we took with this is we almost likened it to that of a screening process for bylaw, where we have bylaws in the city, we have rules and regulations of the city, and our bylaw officers are empowered with the ability to issue they can mitigate any infractions, things like that on the spot. So that's what we liken this to. Having said that, if it is the desire of council for us to investigate maybe adding a member of council to the internal committee or forming a committee of council to review any kind of situations like that, we're more than open to consider that.
Your Worship, I guess maybe the clerk can speak to this. There is already a committee that exists that is made up of mostly councillors, I believe, that deals with like the notice of muzzle, the property standards, is essentially a committee that deals with these sort of issues in a way. I think it would be appropriate in the situation where if someone is like it's on a like they're not being treated fairly, that they would go to that council, not so much on like if it's a black and white matter, like you didn't provide your insurance, then you like that's not something that's appealable. But I guess if it's really on a procedural basis that if they're not being treated fairly, then then they should go to that sort of committee, I guess, is kind of how I feel about that. So I don't know if Mr. Mayor.
Hey, you can make an amendment to add that as part of that committee's duty. Is that fine, Madam Clerk?
Well, we would have to take it back and because it would require an amendment to the terms of reference of that committee. So it'd have to come back as another thing of council, and we'd have to look into because these are bylaws that this committee is enforcing, whereas that's not a bylaw. So that is the nuance there, and so it's something that we'd have to investigate for sure.
Councillor Bruno.
I don't want to send a chilling effect to staff who are there. And I'm sure Councillor Beauregard wasn't going that fast to impede the good things about this, but I just think across the board, I can't help but think that there was probably some demoralizing effect the last time. We used to, in years gone by, have this issue where people were coming here complaining about rates and all kinds of things. And that almost makes you not want to run a marina because staff is looking over their shoulder at us. We've had this one issue. I think we dealt with it very well. We got a remedy. I don't know that we need another remedy if something goes beyond that. And I still applaud the councillor for wanting to make sure that there's adjudication process. But I think we actually ended up having that. And that's how we got here. And so someone did get a chance to speak if they were treated unfairly. To enshrine it, I think, can send a message to somebody who maybe isn't prone to be compliant, as there's now this other avenue. I think there already is an avenue, and there always will be an avenue coming here. And I think if we've taken something from being 98% successful to now 99, I just don't it's hard being there in your position. Sometimes it's Saturday afternoon, sometimes there's a crowd there, sometimes it's 2 a.m, sometimes it's coming in to review something the next morning. You've got to have the authority to be able to act and appear that the management is in charge there. So, I understand where the councillor's coming from, but I'm happy to leave this new amendment to be workable, at least tried. And we haven't had anything that's needed to get beyond that except this one case. So I wouldn't be supportive of that. Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Anything further? All in favor? All in favor of what's on the floor? Vote yes if you're in favor. All opposed? It's carried. Thank you, council. All right, on to staff remarks. Madam Clerk, anything to add tonight?
Nothing this evening.
Fire Chief.
Mr. Mayor, nothing from fire tonight.
Thank you. Joe, Public Works.
Yeah, through you, the mayor, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick update on the West Street downtown. As you know, we're doing streetlight installations. There's some concrete restoration work being done. We're hoping to get this done over the next 3 to 4 weeks. Clarence Street water main, we'll be wrapping that up in the next 2 weeks as well. And one item that we've been notified from the Niagara region that Rankin will be starting their resurfacing program. And you'll all be happy to know that Miller Road from Forks to 3rd, Forks Road from Wilhelm to Shill Road, and Shill Road from Forks to Netherby will all be resurfaced in the first couple weeks of July. And that's everything.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Good regional counselor, eh? Councilor Bonner, good regional counselor. Mr. Dwyer.
Yeah, I just had one update for everyone. I just wanted to mention that we have the Ontario Para Games is hosting the para hockey at the Vail Center this weekend. So that'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Planning? Eric?
Through the mayor, just let council know that next month, June 24th at the meeting, we're going to be bringing back a file that's been in and out of council for about a year related to an apartment development on West Side Road. We've got a recommendation report coming on an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. At the last meeting, there were a number of members of the public that had raised concerns around this file. We are going to reach out in advance of the council meeting, let them know that this item is coming back up, and that there'll be a report on for this. So just an FYI that's coming forward June 24th.
Thank you. When your remarks come up, you can ask all the questions you want. This is called staff updates, not staff back and forth. Mr. Long, anything to add for the evening?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just a couple of quick things. Councillor Bagu mentioned a property standards issue to me regarding 725 King Street, and we'll work with Public Works on that, and that's my file. I apologize for the state of that property, and we'll definitely take care of that. Second issue, just wanted to mention that that city finance staff kicked off the 2026 budget process with a meeting with key staff a couple of weeks ago. So I think kudos to them, and I think it speaks to the planning that goes into the annual budget process, and certainly staff enjoys the opportunity to collaborate with council when you're sitting as budget committee. And I think it's through those discussions that council and staff have been able to work together on some strategic investments, some significant investments that have gone into infrastructure upgrades, and kudos to the Public Works team for many of the projects that they've undertaken. And I think those comments are relevant as we watch or listen to the asset management plan presentation this evening. Just wanted to mention that we have the mayor and Councillor Bruno and our CAO and our Public Works Director going to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference this coming weekend. I just wanted to wish you well. There's so much happening at a national level that impacts what we do at a local level, whether it's tariffs, economic uncertainty, affordable housing. So just wanted to wish the delegation well, and I think it's so important that the city has representation at these national and provincial conferences, and that we're part of those conversations. So look forward to the updates when you get back. And just on another government relations note, city staff are submitting ministerial meeting requests this week for the provincial AMO conference that takes place in mid-August. So those delegation requests are due this week, and we have a lot of requests going in because there's a lot happening at the city, and there's a lot that is happening here that impacts, or there's a lot happening provincially that impacts us at the local level. So just a couple updates, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk does have something to add tonight.
So sorry, I spoke too soon. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let council know that Brenda Heidebruck, our legislative assistant, celebrated 25 years with the corporation this past weekend. And I'm sure all of you have spoken with Brenda many times over the last couple of years. So I just wanted to say congratulations to her.
Yes, we delivered on behalf of council. We delivered a bouquet of flowers and a nice card today. So they were celebrating down on the second floor, so we appreciate that. Just one thing further to what the acting CAO brought up with regards to the FCM conference. One thing I'm really looking forward to is discussion on interprovincial trade and how the trade barriers are starting to break down. The province of Ontario has made several agreements with Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and they're working with some other provinces, and Manitoba, with regards to economic development, how that can affect us here in Port Colborne, with regards to what can be done, or what is sold or purchased or made in those provinces that, can those companies come here now, produce, and with open borders, it's better for them. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to on the economic development side with that. So, councillors' remarks. I'm not sure, Councillor Elliott, when you were acting mayor last meeting, which end you started at. Do you remember? Councillor Bodner got to go twice, 2 meetings in a row, because I remember starting with him. Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank staff, Public Works especially, because I've been inundating them with traffic, speed, emails. So Curtis sent a very detailed list of what was happening to Councillor Bodner and myself. And also to Stephanie, the Director of Museum and Culture. Councillor Bodner and I went to Roselawn and met her and Tim Anderson, and they walked us through the proposed new accessibility ramp going into the facility, and I think the staff have done a really good job in doing the work to get that moving. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Councillor Borgard. Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did receive an email today, like you did too, Mr. Mayor, about some sort of kickoff next month on June 19th at the marina. So maybe you want to talk about it rather than myself. That's when you usually get up and wear your party hat.
Oh, you're talking about when we were
Canal Days
releasing the names of the
Canal
bands
Days
for
kickoff.
Canal Days kickoff?
Right.
No, I'll let you take charge of that one. That's good. But yeah, that is that date, and stay tuned, and we'll have the list of bands then. I was going to say one now, but I better not, because we get in trouble.
I'm good, Mr.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Mr. Long. Can I assume that Mr. Bowles has been loaded with all the pending federal applications that you may want to file? So just like was done at AMO and Good Roads, do we have sort of that list for us to shop? I think whilst there won't be any ministers there, there's usually the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, and third party. But there's lots of people there, like from the FCM Green Fund and others that have alternate funding. So are we loaded with all that information? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Just wanted to do that. Through you to...
So just to that, both Brian and Steve will, between you and I think we're pretty good old hats at this one as far as those organizations that are over and above the ministers as far as programs, but they enhance some of the programs that go on that you and I know about, especially the Green Fund. It is federal dollars, but yeah, they know exactly where we need to go and talk to. No different than last year when we were there with Mark and yourself and stuff. So,
good. Yeah. Through you to Joe. I'm wondering about, Rhodes does a great job on getting to these city properties, but I'm thinking more boulevards and that. So there used to be private property owners that were not up to snuff about cutting their grass and weeds. Sort of got on a frequent flyers list, and councilors didn't have to call it in or answer the neighbor who said, can you call City Hall? And they'll do that. I'm just wondering, the intersection of Neff and King, on the corner there, Frank and I, a number of times, have either brought it up. It's a building that's boarded up, but the boulevard curbside weeds, pretty bad there right now. Are these people, like, that's sort of city land, but we've always had folks be responsible for along the sidewalk and in their parking lot. Can there be a frequent flyer list other than having to call them in? Is there one? Can you get back to us? Can we put that one on the list for now?
I got a couple of places.
Through the mayor, I can follow up with our roads department and make sure that it's on a frequent flyer list.
Okay, great. And one last one to Eric. With what you had mentioned earlier about the pending meeting in June, will those residents that were concerned, is there a way to get a message to them about the apartment building issue at West Side Road?
Through the mayor to councillor, yeah, our intention is to notify them in advance of the meeting, let them know that that the item's up, so that it's not discussed without them having an opportunity to hear or participate.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott.
Just a couple of thank yous to staff, to Matt and Steve for all the work they've been doing with Clarence Street and West Street, with getting information out to all the shop owners and the landlords on those streets. They've gone above and beyond, in my opinion, delivering by hand notices to keep up with questions and answers and whatnot. It's a thankless job. They also agreed to come to the next downtown BIA meeting to have an open forum to discuss going forward when the project hopefully will come to an end. I know that there's numerous shopkeepers and owners that want to know what's going on. When can we see our new sidewalks? When will the road be paved? And when will all the mess get cleaned up? So I know there's no good time to do infrastructure work, and this had to be done. I think sometimes people lose sight of that fact that this was a collapse and it had to get finished, and we had to do it now. And it's unfortunate it ran over time, but just kudos to staff for getting out there and putting their face in front of things. And just as a personal ask, and I was going to see Jessica beforehand, but when there's an addendum late in the day, like today, and you send us out a notice, can you attach the addendum to the email, or can you not do that?
Through you, Mayor, the reason that I don't is they're varying in size. So some of the files, like today, it was a small one. However, we have had addendums where the file is large, and then I have difficulty emailing it. So okay. That's why I, as a general practice, I don't attach it. So okay. Apologies.
Sometimes we get notifications so late in the day that it's like, I'm only going to have about 10 minutes to read this when I get home. And it's like, if you send it out to me, I could probably read it where I am. And it's like, oh, when today's came out, it was like, we almost got through the day without having an addendum. And then, yeah, and then it showed up. So, but that's okay. I understand. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Danch?
Yeah, a couple shout outs there. I had a few problems this week, but they've all been looked after. Thanks again.
Thank you. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Joe. Joe, the Miller Road thing's a good news story. Can you, or do you know, will they be closing Miller Road to do that? That will affect possibly White Road with people going down there that already, Councillor Agavalena's got a number of calls on speeding on that road. So it'd be nice if we had a heads up on that, if you can find out or let us know?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I can definitely follow up and find out and confirm. I would suspect that it's not going to be closed, but if it is, either way, I'll follow up.
Sure. Okay, great. And so I came upon something in the last week that disturbs me a little bit, and it's the ward boundary review. And 5 people that I talked to that are usually engaged in city business had no idea this was going on. So I don't know whether other councilors have got any comments on this or anything, but they thought it was pretty important with the ward boundaries and council composition is being looked at. They wanted to know how we advertise that. I suggested maybe, and tell me if I'm wrong, whether they contacted City Hall and got on an email list or something. But these are people that are kind of tuned in, but they had no idea that it was going on, so.
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Councillor, or through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bodnar and all of Council. We've advertised it the same way we have for all of our other methods of doing open houses and surveys, because we had the survey open at the same time of those open house. We put it on our social medias. There's a web page on our website that has the preliminary options report, as well as the survey and an interactive map. It was the same method that we used for the first round of open houses, and we've sort of followed the same process that we've been doing for all of these big topics that have had public engagement plans. Not exactly the same, but very similar.
Pretty close, okay, so because I was away, I don't know what the turnout for those open houses were, but
They weren't very well attended. I know 2 councillors were at one, and there was like 2 councillor staff and maybe 3 or 4 public came. I'll tell you, the chicken survey got more people involved than this, and that, it is disturbing, honestly.
yeah, no,
It is disturbing.
This is serious stuff. It
Yeah.
could affect, really the whole community. So I'm at a loss to, to kind of get, I kind of guess that's why I brought it up tonight, to maybe let some more people know. I was surprised that they didn't know about it, but they didn't. They were actually kind of mad they didn't know about it. But there's still time for them to react, I guess, and get comments in and things. But anyways, I don't know what happened or whether there's any more options for us to let people know.
Madam Clerk?
Okay, I'll wait to hear that, and then
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Council Bodnar. We had this discussion with consultants during the open houses. We really don't know why the turnout wasn't great, but they've had this similar experience in other municipalities. It's unfortunate that they don't get the same traction as other hot topics that are coming across the municipality, but I can assure you that we did do our advertisements. It went on social media. We had public open houses on social media, on our city's website. We have a whole web page dedicated to this topic with interactive comments or interactive maps, like I said. The survey, which I believe is now closed, but if anybody does still want to provide comments, I'm happy. If they want to email them to me, I can pass them along to our consultants, but they are working on a final report that is planning to come forward on June 24th. So if they do have comments, I would highly recommend that they submit them to me at the earliest opportunity.
Councillor?
Okay, so just because I was thinking about it, so June 24th, so that's, yeah. I was just thinking, in hindsight, it's too bad we didn't have something at, say, Sherkson Community Center, Bethel Community Center. I'm sure the community would have come out once the word got out through their, circle. But it's late now, so.
Yeah, through you, Councillor Bodnar. We've just been following suit from other public engagement plans and holding it at the Golden Puck Room in the Vale Health and Wellness Center because it's been a good turnout at those other ones, right? It's been sort of a central location for many residents to come and attend to. So like I said, it's kind of hard to predict why some topics get more traction than others. It is definitely unfortunate, but I can't say it enough. I think we did our best to spread the word as best we could.
I think I'll contact both of those community centers and at least get people to go on the website and look at everything that's there. And I guess you're thinking it might be too late for comments to come in, or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I don't think it's too late.
Okay.
The consultants are still working on the final
Right,
report. I think
right.
they'd appreciate as many comments as they can get.
Right.
So even if it lands into next week, I think that would be fine, but I would say the end of
That's
next week
fine.
is probably the hard deadline.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Okay. Bylaws. We need to split the bylaws because of Councillor Beauregard's conflict. So if I could have Councillors Ackland and Beauregard move bylaw 73534425 and bylaw 73544525. Questions on either of those two bylaws? All in favor? That's carried. And then for Councillor Beauregard's conflict, moved by Councillors Elliott and Danch, that bylaw 73554625 be enacted as presented. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. And if I could have Councillors Beauregard and Begg and move that council do now proceed to meet in closed session at 9:05 p.m. under the Municipal Act 2001, subsections 2392A, where a closed meeting is held if the subject matter being considered is concerning the security of the property of the municipality or local board. Subsection 2392E, where a closed meeting is held if the subject matter being considered is litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Subsection 2392F, where a closed meeting is held if the subject matter being considered is advice, but is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. We will now move into closed session. I appreciate everybody watching and that attended our meeting tonight. We will not be coming back online when we go back into open session. Thank you very much. This portion is